Sam, number one, if you were to wake tomorrow as a wise, beloved, but slightly wicked dictator of Australia, what would be your first call to change? Now, one thing fun, like banning capsicum, something like that. One thing rational and relatively easy, and then one thing ambitious and even slightly outrageous.
So one thing fun, and there's cities in the world that already do this. I think every city should have a night mayor. So we have a mayor on the Gold Coast that's responsible for the political and social decisions that we make. And cities like ours are reliant on nighttime entertainment. I think we should have a night mayor that's responsible for basically driving the fun things that happen in the city after the lights go down.
Very good. I'd get behind a nightmare.
Someone actually
I don't
said
do
that
anything after 8 p.m, but I still just the title sounds fucking rad.
Someone actually said to me that I am already Tom Tate's nightmare.
Yeah, you're on your way. I'd vote for sure.
So that was something fun.
Do you know which city specifically had things like this in place? Or are we talking
Not in Australia.
Not in Australia.
No, I think it might be a European city. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So that's our one little fun thing. So next is one thing that's rational and relatively easy, I guess, to get a little bit of a move on for people to make the adjustment. Where's that change going to come?
I would probably take the investment that we currently make into fossil fuels and redirect it to mass rapid public transport.
Oh, why particularly public transport?
I love public transport.
I just wanted to hear you say that again.
I love the light rail.
She is a shill, by the way.
I'm a shill for big public. Specifically a bullet train between Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, Brisbane.
Yes.
And then very fast rail between Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sunshine Coast, and the other, Sydney to its outer-lying cities. I mean, Southeast Queensland's basically one big city that goes from Byron Bay to Gympie.
Yeah.
And there's no public transport between those population centres.
Okay, so that's your easy thing. Now let's move on.
Easy man.
Let's move on to the ambitious and slightly outrageous. Remember, you're the dictator. You don't have to necessarily have people cooperate with you. You just say, and it starts to happen. What are you going with?
Ambitious and outrageous.
Slightly outrageous.
Slightly outrageous.
Let's not go down the genocidal track. Let's not start talking eugenics or anything like that.
Pretty sure that's not on my radar, but thanks for bringing it into the conversation. Yeah. I would open all our borders to refugees.
Okay.
Currently coming by boat, and I would probably look at having some pretty radical and policies for how we help those people settle in Australia and the role that they play.
Would that then include people who say start off with their 1-year travel visa, decide Australia is the place to be and just want to stay?
Well, I don't consider those people to be refugees.
Yeah.
I consider them to be immigrants.
Yeah.
I guess I'm talking about the people that are being forced to flee their homes, escaping hardship, and so I think we're a very wealthy nation, and that there must be ways that we could have progressive policy to help them settle in Australia and to put their skills to really good use.
Okay, so for all of those people out there who are banging on about stopping the boats, Sam, she'll have plenty of answers for you if you want to come at her. If you want to start the trolling, I'll share her Facebook details maybe. Next one. A bit of feedback for the young blokes in your day-to-day adventures. So, we're here at the Waterman segment, show that bloke stuff, investigating young male health through both professional and recreational interactions. What do you admire and where do you see the sort of blocks to progress? So let's talk the 35 and unders compared to, say, blokes closer to the sort of 50 and 60. That's the old generation on the way out, but the emerging generation of young men. What's to admire and where do you still see blocks to, being a profound role model as a bloke in our community?
So what's to admire, what I admire about current generation of young men under 35 is I think they're much more socially active than my generation was at that age. So I see them forming a lot stronger bonds across genders, so they'll have really strong friendships with girls, and they'll have really strong friendships with men.
That's professionally and recreationally
Professionally and recreationally, like the dynamic has changed. Whereas at that age for me, I was personally a little bit different. Most of my friends are men, but a lot of those men didn't have a lot of female friends, and they hung out with guys all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that those social barriers have changed a little bit. The other thing I admire, and I think this has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, is the fact that young men will talk about issues like mental health a little bit more openly than they did 10 years ago.
So there's a bit more vulnerability, perhaps?
I don't even know if it's vulnerability, but just a willingness to communicate, even if it's not about them.
A fucking great place to start, willingness.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to do it quite openly. And then I guess the issue with that is that society probably hasn't caught up with then having a feedback loop for those guys. So they'll talk quite openly about mental health or whatever, but society isn't responding the way that we probably should.
Okay, and some constructive criticism. Where do you see blocks? Where do you think that guys are still, I guess, preventing themselves mostly from really, I guess, sort of emerging into a 21st century type?
They drink too much alcohol.
Good, simple answer.
They just, it's not cool. It's just not cool. It's a toxin. It messes with your head.
It's self-harm.
It messes with your social relationships.
Yeah.
You think you're having a great night out, getting wasted and waking up with a terrible hangover and having to work out how to get your car back. But it's not, use those hours for something else. Yeah.
Well, I always find alcohol a particularly sort of difficult subject to talk about. I mentioned I've had difficulties with it, but I'm not against it. It took me a long time, though, to be realistic about how young men relate to alcohol use in Australia and compare that to other cultures around the world. Cultures similar, like the US, or cultures maybe a little bit further removed, Eastern Europe, and then of course into Asia. There is nothing short of self-harm encouraged as the way to drink as an Aussie bloke.
Even if you look at like in the past, the things we used to do to celebrate the rite of passage, like an 18th birthday party, and the thing to do when my friends were turning 18 was to scull a yard glass at 18. And so, if that doesn't put you on your ass straight away, then you've been drinking too much already at 18, basically. Because that's a hideous volume of alcohol to drink in one hit.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, and I really hope to continue this discussion with yourself and other guests to come. Substance abuse, including alcohol. Usually people think of ice and the epidemic. It's in our faces most days of the week. People drinking at unhealthy, and they're affecting every single person around them as they do it too. It's not it's my life, it's my choice, what I put in my body, etc. That's true to a certain point, but when you are starting to bring great harm upon yourself, it's happening to others around you too.
Just to share a little anecdote about alcohol, I run a lot of events. I ran a conference one year, and the gifts we gave our speakers, 50 speakers, was a bottle of wine in a lovely little gift bag.
Okay.
And I handed the bottle over to someone, and they took it out of the bag and they put it down on the table with a thump, and they said, "This is ridiculous. This is the most insensitive gift you could ever give someone. Pull your head in." And walked away. And ever since that time, whenever someone says, "Oh, we should give wine as a gift," I'm like, it might be worth thinking a little bit outside the box, because wine or alcohol isn't always the most appropriate gift to give someone, especially if you don't know them. Yeah.
Food packages. You've seen me. This is how I'm rocking nowadays. It's such a primal thing. So many cultures around the world, and for our entire history, one of the greatest things you could do for one another is present some food. Showing up to a friend's house like, "Hey, I bought some bananas," or "Hey, I got some sweets." It's just such a safe, loving way to make a gesture.
It's a lovely way to share the abundance, and people have done it for ages, Hey, I've got a massive crop of zucchini. I brought you 100 zucchinis. Please don't bring me 100 zucchinis.
All right. Next question. First Wombat, then the baby, then blank, then music awards, and recently even helping with the Gold Coast Film Festival. Sam, what is next? I can only imagine you're getting bored now with only 20 plates in the air.
What's next? Well, first, downtime. I'm very good at scheduling downtime amongst all of those commitments. So what is actually next is going to Cape York for a month with my 3-year-old son. But from a work point of view, we've got ideas, lots of ideas for all of those projects you just mentioned. That it's always a moving feast.
Okay.
So with Wombat Creative, I'm delivering a lot more training now than I used to deliver. With Blank, we're constantly tweaking the magazine and how we deliver it and who's involved and how we present ourselves. So
we've got a special heads up for anyone who managed to tune in live this morning.
I'll give you a special heads up. We're thinking of redirecting the effort we have put into northern New South Wales and moving it to the northern Gold Coast. So, which basically reflects where the major population centre of the Gold Coast is at the moment. And the fact that people from northern New South Wales don't consider themselves to be part of the Gold Coast. So.
As much as we want them to be, because it really is fucking beautiful just over the border.
They don't care about us. I hate to break it to you, but they do not see. We put the magazine down there, it says Blank Gold Coast, and they're like, that's not us.
Yeah.
That's someone else.
Fair enough.
Yeah.